And we continue at 106 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, this is just breaking. The California Press Corps is under attack from the homeless. Eitan Wallace, who is a Capitol reporter for Nexstar Media Group, just tweeted out, while journalists were setting up for a press conference on the steps of the California Capitol today, a man came out of nowhere to threaten a fist fight. He then retrieved an apple from the bag that he was holding and threw it at us. He missed.
And this apparently is not the first time that the Capitol Press Corps has been attacked by a crazy homeless person. In fact, this same journalist was attacked during a live shot a couple of months ago. Here's what he said. I debated about sharing this video because it is sensitive and definitely involves a complex statewide issue of mental well-being for people who need help. That said, given that this happened on the steps of the California Capitol, I felt it was necessary to post. For context, we were setting up in advance of a press conference in opposition of ACA 1. The press conference featuring Assembly Republicans and California Senate Republicans went on as planned. As journalists, we cover the important issues facing California every day. My priority is to bring you the news and information you deserve. He then posted another video of the incident that happened a few months ago where someone tried to throw a liquid at him while he was recording an on-cam stand-up. He apparently missed. So, go ahead.
It's a really dangerous job to be a California Capitol reporter. Outside the Capitol, you're getting attacked and harassed by the mentally deranged and the homeless. And inside the Capitol, you're getting shoved by Mia Bonta.
Well, if you think about it, doing a live shot outside the Capitol is dangerous. One of the things that happens when you're a broadcaster is every so often they want you to broadcast from outside the studio. You broadcast at a sporting event. You broadcast at the location of an advertiser. You broadcast at some big event that's going on.
They had us do it at a gas station this year.
That's true. I'm surprised they didn't have us pumping gas.
Well, that'll be our next job, so that is very appropriate.
But typically, you know what type of coworker I am. I stay in my lane. I don't try to tell people in other departments what to do. I don't get involved in their business because it's none of my business. I make sure I'm prepared for a radio program between noon and 3, and I leave the website to the web people. I leave the accounting to the accounting people. I leave the legal stuff to the legal people. You don't have to be one of these people that wears a million different hats. There are people who are micromanagers. I am not one of them. However, one of the things I always make sure to inquire about when we're doing a live shot is where are we going to be sitting and what's going to be behind me, because I never want to have my back to the public. You have your back to the public, you can't see what's going on. And sometimes people like you, and sometimes people don't like you, and sometimes they really don't like you, and sometimes they like you way too much. In any of those cases, you don't want your back to them. You want to be able to see what's going on at all times. But when you're doing a live shot in front of the state capitol is behind you. They want that in the background so everyone knows that you're in Sacramento, which means you have your back to everything that's going on in front of the state capitol. And if all the homeless decide to live in front of the state capitol and all the crazy people and the drug addicts are there, that means you have your back to them all day. There is zero chance I would ever sign up for that gig.
They have to pay me a lot of money.
Could you imagine? At least with the White House, if you've ever been by the White House at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, you walk down the street and you see all the reporters, and they're all lined up right there on the lawn. NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, CNN, public television, all of them. And they are inside the fence. So you see the White House in the background, but no one from the general public can get behind them. Everything is always in front of them. And that makes it so if they're half paying attention, if someone's having an episode, they're aware of it and they can protect themselves. In Sacramento, that's like comparing the Yankees to the Mud Hens. This is AAA. So you don't have a gate that's protecting you from the homeless people. You're just out there on your own in the elements.
Well, and on top of that, thanks to the great stewardship of Darrell Steinberg, the homeless problem has gone up sixfold in the last 5 years in the city of Sacramento.
That's right. And specifically downtown Sacramento. And they put the new basketball arena for the Kings in downtown Sacramento. By the way, the parking situation for that is horrendous. So if you're ever in downtown Sacramento when there's a basketball game, you aren't going anywhere. You're pretty much stuck where you are. The old Arco Arena used to be out, and I think it was Natomas, out by Sacramento Airport. And they had plenty of parking out there, but it wasn't near any restaurants or bars or anything like that. So they said, all right, let's put it in downtown Sacramento, and that way everyone can just take public transportation in and watch the game that way and take the public transportation out. Well, no one does that because it's unsafe. So everyone drives into a tiny little area with no parking. A lot of forward planning going on there. But because all of the new stuff went up in downtown Sacramento, if you're a homeless person and a panhandler, that's where you go to get money from tourists. That's where you go to get money from people who are there for work. And so downtown Sacramento has become a different version of Skid Row in Los Angeles. Lots of homeless people, lots of drug use, lots of criminal activity, and everyone is told to look the other way. Because while Sacramento County is more conservative than LA County, Sacramento City is just as liberal as Los Angeles. And so they have their own version of all of the regulars on the LA City Council that cause all the problems. Their own Nithya Raman, their own Ulysses Hernandez. And because of that, downtown Sacramento is now a place where you would not want to have your back to the homeless and the criminals while you're doing a live shot.
I mean, remember the story we had a month ago where the Sacramento courthouse was having such a bad problem with the homeless that the judge ordered it cleared because you had jurors that were fearing for their lives.
Well, and what's going to happen is you're going to get different jury pools. You're going to get different jury makeups. If you're a single woman or you're elderly, are you going to want to go put up with that? Because I don't know where you get called for jury duty, Randy, but when I used to get called in downtown L.A., they would have me park at Disney Concert Hall, and then they'd have me walk several blocks from Disney Concert Hall to, I think it was the Clara Young Justice Center, where I would serve my jury duty. Well, you have to drive downtown, and then you have to walk through a gauntlet of bums before you get to the courthouse. And then in the hallways of the courthouse, it's all the family members of the people who've been accused of crimes. So it's like one big loser magnet. Have you ever tried to make small talk with them in the courthouse before?
Not something I would do.
So nice to meet you there, Slash. Do tell me, is the left side of your head naturally bald? And, of course, you got to find lunch down there. And typically, when I would serve on jury duty down there, I would walk to Chinatown. I'd walk to Little Tokyo. I'd walk to Alvera Street. Lots of different places with lots of great restaurants. And there were bums back when I would do it, but nothing like what they have to deal with today. Now, I don't know if I'd walk to those places. I did so with other jurors, so I wasn't by myself. But I don't even know if I'd do it now if I had 2-3 people with me.
That part of town has gotten scarier and scarier in the last 10 years. You're better off bringing a sack lunch.
Well, if I'm elderly, what I do is I just don't show up at all. What are they going to do to you?
Oh, they do nothing.
That's right. For a while, they were aggressively going after people who were throwing out their jury summons. But after a certain point, they just gave up on that too. It's anything goes here.
Well, I think they figure in this day and age, they don't have to worry about all the people that throw their jury summons away because there are so many people that are obsessed with true crime shows that people are banging down the doors to get on one of those juries.
Okay, so just to repeat, the Sacramento press corps was just attacked by a crazy homeless person right outside the state capitol. Assembly Republicans and Senate Republicans were expected to give a press conference. Our booked guest this segment was one of those members, so maybe they're in a special meeting or something right now. I don't know, but there was definitely a security breach, a security threat that just took place outside the state capitol when this press conference was supposed to be going on. So, in the meantime, Randy, what do you say we reopen the KABC Crime Blotter?
Once again, let's do it.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And this edition involves the boys in blue. And by that, I don't mean the cops, I mean the Dodgers.
That's right. A member of the L.A. Dodgers was out celebrating their 9th win in a row last night when a jackass broke into his Lambo.
Maybe he was a Giants fan.
For more, here is Fox 11 News.
And what a shame, Miguel Rojas becoming the latest statistic in the city of Los Angeles. This after a night of celebrating. Take a look at the video. It was a great night for the Los Angeles Dodgers and player Miguel Rojas. A 6-2 win over the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Dodgers' 9th straight win had everyone celebrating.
That's a better sports report than I do.
Boy, I wish as an Angels fan we could have these reports every so often.
Except-
now it's just telling us how much we lost by.
Except the team from Wisconsin and their fans, of course. But after the game, Rojas and his family went to get something to eat, leaving his Lamborghini in a parking lot on the corner of Broadway and Olympic near downtown L.A., walking to a...
Yeah, I don't even care if you pay for the $30 parking lot. That car's not safe.
No, do not drive that anywhere near downtown right now.
Walking to a restaurant nearby. But when they returned to the car, they found someone had smashed and actually removed a side passenger window from the Lamborghini, and they'd taken off with a purse reportedly belonging to Rojas' mother-in-law. Inside...
You thought it was going to be safe inside the flashy car parked in downtown L.A. unattended?
Okay, you've got the Lamborghini and you have a purse that's visible in downtown Los Angeles. If you're a crook, don't you think that's some sort of police sting?
I don't think they care anymore. I mean, we heard about the Stash It, Don't Flash It campaign. They're stealing water bottles and loose change.
You know what the cops do? I've seen this multiple times. When they're doing a sting operation to get motorists who don't yield to pedestrians in crosswalks, what the cops will do is they'll have a police officer dress up like Santa Claus in a Santa Claus costume and just walk back and forth all day long. Because if there's anything that's obvious, it's a big fat jolly man with a beard wearing all red in August in California. And they get people every single time.
Inside her iPhone and everything else, wallet, ID, credit cards, and more.
Who leaves that when they're going to a restaurant?
They were happy they won the game.
Well, I know Miguel was going to pay, but maybe keep that stuff on you because it's downtown L.A.
ID, credit cards, and more. The suspect disappearing into the night, souring what had been a celebration and bringing it back here live. In the city of Los Angeles, burglaries in general are up over 13%, and burglaries and theft from motor vehicles, which this was, are also up 6%. So just another statistic in the city of Los Angeles. No suspect description, but LAPD detectives from Central Division will be heading out tomorrow to look for any surveillance video, hoping to ID the burglar.
They won't.
No, not even going to try.
Reporting live, I'm Gigi Graciette. Back to you.
There we go.
Have you noticed that even the local sports reports are turning into crime blotters? And these are sports reports that are turning into crime blotters, and the Raiders aren't in town.
Everyone's getting their car broken into, even a member of the LA Dodgers.
If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Will writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com saying, there has to be a point where we don't blame the bad guys, but rather the idiot who parks a Lamborghini with a purse inside next to Skid Row. Apparently, this Dodger was no good at dodging baseballs because he must have been hit in the head one too many times. Thank you, Will. It's the cleanest one he's written in weeks.
All right. If you missed the first hour, you missed an extended edition of the KABC Crime Blotter, but not to fear. You can go back and listen to the podcast edition of our 12 o'clock hour.
That's right. Go to KABC.com, click on podcast, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe, download all the episodes, search for The John Phillips Show on YouTube, and you can go all the way back. You can go back to crime blotters of past times, like... Or...
Ooh, this doesn't look too good.
Or...
Get out of my way.
Or... So download them.
I thought we were going to get the questions woman, too.
Questions? I'll be back. Get out.
It's Woo Wednesday.
It's Woo Wednesday. Yeah, baby. Woo, 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 woo.
Which means, Randy, tomorrow is Throwback Thursday.
That's right. So if you've got a suggestion for the music playlist on tomorrow's show, your favorite artist, genre, or theme, one listener suggested that it should be the soundtrack to the movie Major League because Wild Thing Ferrera's thrown out the first pitch on Sunday. But whatever you got for us, creativity is encouraged. When we open up the phones in the 2 o'clock hour, you call in, you make your suggestion, and we'll pick one lucky listener who chooses all the music for Throwback Thursday.
And as you just teased, Randy, Sunday is a very special day at Dodger Stadium.
That's right, because this woman...
No, thank you.
This woman...
Yeah.
This woman...
Next slide.
This woman...
I have no idea.
...is throwing out the first pitch at the Dodger game for L.A. County Day. So if you happen to be going to the Dodger game or are thinking about going to the Dodger game, make sure you get there early. First pitch is at 12:40, and you could witness one of the greatest achievements in all of sports. And you can boo her.
And if you want to bring signs that say fake doctor on them, we certainly wouldn't encourage that. But if you choose to do that, we certainly can't stop you.
The evidence is like crystal clear on that.
And if you take video of her being booed out of Dodger Stadium and video of her not even making it halfway to home plate, we might just play it on Monday's show.
Yeah.
If it's newsworthy, of course.
Have fun out there, Dodger fans.
But first, we know that he's going to be debating Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. We know that he is actively running for president, even though he says that he's not. But the warden is still the warden of the state of California, and every once in a while, he has to pop up and perform his duties as governor.
That's right. Gavin Newsom, aided by his wife, had a big old press conference at an Elk Grove school library to talk about how California is the leader in education. Now, before we get to the main headliner, we had to start with the opening act because Jennifer Newsom rhymes too.
And through Farm to School, we're making sure that those meals are fresh, nutritious, delicious.
Boy, she hit the jackpot marrying him. She was an actress, right?
Yes, but she also came from a very wealthy family.
Okay, but no one would pay attention to her at this point unless she was on a hit show, unless she was married to Gavin Newsom. But because she's married to Gavin Newsom, he can bring her along and they can take their act on the road and people still pay attention to her.
Now, Johnny, what is the first thing you think of when you think of school cafeteria food?
Burnt meat and oppression.
And through Farm to School, we're making sure that those meals are fresh, nutritious, delicious.
Is the square piece of pizza that's greasier than my forehead nutritious and delicious too?
It's also shaped like a square. When else do you go out to a restaurant and order pizza and get it shaped like a square?
Jennifer Siebold Newsom also wanted to talk about the state's advances in dealing with kids' mental health. And listen for the magic word, kids.
So I want to thank MIWOC for doing your part to help address the youth mental health crisis. Your on-site mental health professionals across the district, thoughtful curricula that includes mindfulness and breath work.
Mindfulness and breath work. She sounds like a yoga instructor.
It's pretty much what we're doing now.
That is something we are mindful of.
Maybe that's where he got it from.
She's the guru.
Now, Jen Newsom, trying to emulate her partner husband, decides to trash all the other states.
And so while other states limit their children and stifle their ability to reach their full potential through politically motivated book bans, racist and reductive refusals to teach history, and the closing of school libraries. Can you imagine? This library wasn't here. In California, we're focused on the whole child.
I got news for you, Jen. If you weren't there, there'd be a homeless person watching porn at that library.
They send their kids to very expensive private schools in one of the most expensive homes in the county that they live in. Is she even passingly familiar with the education that kids get in places like L.A. or Oakland?
Absolutely not. Now it's time to pass the baton.
So now I get to introduce, very proud of this man, a huge champion for California's kids, my husband, our Governor Gavin Newsom.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam First Partner.
Madam First Partner.
And first thing Gavin wants to talk about is libraries.
Jen just highlighted the perversity that we are in a library as somehow an anomalous point to assert. And it's no longer anomalous because you look...
Wait, what's the word?
Well, usually when you're talking about perversity in libraries, where you talk about you in the state of California turning them over to the homeless so they can go there and use the computers and look at pornography.
But what's the fancy word he's trying to use here? Anomalous or anonymous?
As somehow an anomalous point to assert. And it's no longer anomalous because you look at what's happening.
What?
He had a hard time getting it out of his mouth, so I'm not quite sure what he was trying to say.
That we are in a library.
I guess this press conference about education doesn't have good grammar.
As somehow...
Or maybe he found a new word in the dictionary.
As somehow an anomalous point to assert. And it's no longer anomalous because you look at what's happening across this country where libraries quite literally are being...
Almost.
Type that into Google. Anonymous. Wait.
Anomalous.
Anomalous.
So like an anomaly, but a more irritating way to say it.
Okay.
How can you say anomaly but be pretentious? Anomalous.
I didn't hear the L.
The perversity that we are in a library as somehow an anomalous point.
Maybe he's saying anonymous. I don't even know what he's saying anymore. Do we got to play What the Hell Did Gavin Newsom Say?
This is going to bother me all day.
Across this country where libraries quite literally are being shut down. Where
what about quite frankly?
He won't say it, but he gets close.
Across this country where libraries quite literally are being shut down. Where librarians are being threatened by criminal action for expressing themselves or providing resources, activities, providing books.
Boy, you're supposed to be quiet in the library. I've been shushed.
Was that a regular occurrence in your educational career?
Well, the one time I was in a library, yes. I'm very loud.
For students that seek them. If you think I exaggerate, just Google what's happening in Houston, Texas. The school district was taken over, and they're shutting down the libraries and turning them into de facto detention facilities. You cannot make this up.
It's the famous Texas Library to Prison program that nobody's ever heard of.
You see what he's trying to do here. He's trying to inject himself in a national story. Because the news channels are covering what they're doing in the libraries in Florida and Texas and other places, specifically with books about gender identity and those sorts of things. He now is trying to inject himself in the story so that he becomes part of it. It's like these ambulance chasing attorneys. Whenever there's a case that involves famous people, there's a list of about 5 different attorneys who are going to find someone to represent to make themselves part of the story.
Now, when I heard
Mark
this...
Garagos, I'm looking at you. Roy Black, I'm looking at you.
Now, when I heard this...
Harlan Braun.
You done?
Gloria. Go ahead.
Now, when I heard this next clip from Gavin Newsom, it definitely got my attention, but it left me with a feeling of almost.
What you also cannot make up is how committed this state is to reforming and transforming public education. I think it's one of the biggest stories that, frankly, hasn't gotten the attention that it deserves.
We're this close. He had a quite, but it was with a literally, and he had a frankly. We're this close.
Okay, let's talk about the schools for a second. We just had first day of school this week. LAUSD, which at one point ballooned up to an enrollment of what, 900,000?
We were up at about 750,000, I believe.
Okay, 750 is the high water mark. Earlier this year, or I guess earlier this week, I guess I should say, it was first day of school, 500,000 kids showed up to LAUSD schools. The number was so low that the superintendent went on television and said, it doesn't matter if your kid is sick or not, send them to school anyway.
We need that money. And the only reason it's above 500,000 is they invented a new grade, so they're counting all the TKs in there.
Is that a required course now?
It's not required, it's optional, but it's free.
Okay, see, I thought that they would have added the grade on the other end, just assuming that they're not going to do the job and everyone's going into adult ed.
Oh, we have that already. It's called free community college.
No, there's something in between high school and free community college. I used to teach it. It's for people who can't pass the GED test, the good enough diploma. I used to teach that and anger management. State of California offers that, and about 3 other courses that are all court-ordered. Come to think of it, anger management was court-ordered, too.
Nobody takes that voluntarily.
No one was really just working on themselves.
You don't take that until you've punched a hole in a wall.
Yeah, they had to take it to get off probation. If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Well, Johnny, during the commercial break, listener Jana was doing some digging because she's getting really excited about the fact that Barbara Ferrer is going to be throwing the first pitch at Dodger Stadium. And it turns out that before Barbara Ferrer was the director of the public health department for L.A. County, she actually used to be a backup singer for Donny Osmond.
Now your love is just a memory.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have her sing the national anthem, too.
Now your love is just a memory.
Yeah.
Just some great researchers we have here in our audience.
Well, it's an embarrassment of riches with all the singers we have in our political community here. We got her. We have Cecily Myart Cruz.
Oh, yeah. Like, of course, everyone's favorite Cecily Myart Cruz song.
I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain?
And then we've got Holly Mitchell.
That's right. Holly Mitchell's got a new one.
From.
Earlier in the hour, we told you that a crazy homeless person just attacked the California press corps who was getting ready to cover a press conference on the steps of the state capitol. Randy, there's more drama going on up there right now.
That's right. This comes from one of our favorite Capitol reporters, Ashley Zavala at KCRA. She says the California state worker protest is now blocking the steps up to the second floor of the Capitol's legislative swing space. People trying to go upstairs to walk through before having to turn around.
So if you go outside the Capitol, you're going to get attacked by crazy homeless people. If you're inside the Capitol, the unions are going to prevent you from using the stairs to prevent you from going where you need to go.
And I know, SCIU, this looks like a great tactic, and you're sure to get everything you want from your contract. But you know what? If you had a Cecily Meyer Cruz, you wouldn't even need to strike.
Get that money!
I'm surprised she hasn't gone statewide or national. Did you get your ballot in the mail, by the way, for AFTRA?
Well, I got to vote for Fran again.
I cannot believe it, quite frankly.
I filled out my ballot today, and I voted for Fran.
I mean, it was one thing that Fran was our president before she started becoming this incredibly inspiring, just linguist when it comes to talking about the strike.
So the jig is up, AMPTP.
But after hearing stuff like this...
And you're trying to screw us as if you're like a land baron of feudal medieval times, and we're your serfs. You know, it's like, wake up and smell the coffee. The jig is up.
I had to keep her in office.
I like quite frankly, I like the language, and I also know nothing about the person running against her.
Well, what show are they on?
No idea.
Because before her, it was the girl from 90210. Then we got the nanny. Who's next? Sister? Is
Could
Mr.
be.
Cooper still running?
How about Mr. Belvedere?
I think he's dead.
Well, didn't one of the child actors turn into Marilyn Manson?
Maybe.
Maybe he didn't, but he certainly looks like him. Anyway, we got one more hour coming up on the John Phillips Show right here on Talk Radio 790 KABC.
You people are crazy. What are you doing? Why are you doing this?